All right, welcome to the Go for Gold podcast. It is myself, Dane Mosier at Daner on Twitter, along with Corey at Golden Gopher. We've got a special guest, Connor Muldowney, today from the Spartan fanhood of Michigan State. Big matchup with us this week. Connor, tell us a little about yourself. What's your affiliation? Any website plugs, anything of that nature?
Yeah, so great introduction from the Spartan fan, and I like that. So I run SpartanAvenue.com, and I just launched a another blog called SpartanShadows.com. You can find me on Twitter at Connor Muldowney as well. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
And he's got a check mark too for anyone listening there too. So
Yeah.
he's that guy.
Don't pump me up like that.
So, Connor, we watched the Washington's game last week. What kind of stood out to you in that game? I realized that you guys had a multitude of injuries. I think Jalen Reed, top receiver, you guys, I think he had some type of back cut, which was really odd. What are your expectations coming into this week compared to Washington Huskies?
Well, I was already kind of nervous going into that game because Michael Penix just kills Michigan State. Every time Michigan State is seeing Penix, he's thrown for at least 280 yards and just goes bananas. I think that might have been the best game of his career. Michigan State did not match up well with Washington because they like to throw the ball a lot, as you saw. And our weakness is our defensive backfield, and they tried to run a zone coverage, and they found the soft spot every single time. So like the 5-yard, 10-yard outs kill Michigan State, and I know Tanner Morgan probably likes to run that kind of stuff too. But I think Michigan State matches up better with Minnesota than they did Washington. But this is still a really tough matchup coming off of that one.
Right. We saw Penix at Indiana, just a really good natural arm talent. I just realized that he was at Washington watching that game. I was looking at him, I was like, that guy's familiar. I think I remembered him at Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. Sometimes these left-handed quarterbacks, it looks a little bit like a mirage, but he was putting it on the money to those receivers. In Washington, that's actually a team that low-key I really want in the Big Ten. I really like their style of play. They do air it out like you saw, but they can also pound it on the ground too.
You know,
Go
and
ahead.
we also before you carry on, we also gotta mention that the Big Ten teams do not fare well going to the West Coast.
No.
They do not. So
Yeah, let's stop doing that until they become Big Ten teams, and then maybe it'll be more normal.
Yeah. So you mentioned Tanner Morgan and how he may, be similar, vary to Penix, what we saw. So what we can provide you is offensive coordinator Kirk Shiraka is back, meaning that the Gophers are fully invested in the RPO passing game. It's still very much a run team. I believe the ratio right now is 70% run, 30% pass. And our top pass catcher, Chris Ottman-Bell, is out for the year with multiple torn ligaments in his knee. That's unfortunate. However, we do have a lot of confidence, not exactly in our receivers, but just coaching. I think that stuff matters so much. And Tanner Morgan is not as talented as Penix, but I think that we could be able to move the ball a little bit on Michigan State through the air, not the way that Washington did. What are your expectations on that?
I think you guys can have success through there if you do the short, intermediate 5-10 yard routes, slants, outs, curls, like little dumps into the middle of the defense. The linebackers like to kind of get caught up in the flats every now and then, and that opens up the middle for someone to just leak out and be wide open. If he does that, they shouldn't have a ton problems through the air. I know that Morgan's not like a slinger. He's not gonna go out and throw for 500 yards on us or anything. Hopefully, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But I am worried a little bit about Ibrahim and who is the other running back?
Trayson Potts, and then
Yep.
Bryce Williams, who I don't think that you guys will be seeing a lot of just because he's kind of our third guy. And I anticipate this is going to be a slugfest. So Bryce Williams has gotten a lot of carries so far just because of the strength of schedule, but you are going to see a lot of Trayson Potts. He's not nearly as physical as Mo Ibrahim, but he's a good change of pace guy. Quicker, he's a patient runner.
He's more of an east and west guy.
Exactly.
Okay. That's like Broussard and Berger for us. Like Broussard is much more east and west, and Berger is north-south type of runner. So that's kind of the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah,
But
I noticed Jalen
those
Berger
guys,
out there.
I mean, all three of those running backs, I'm pretty sure average like almost 6 yards a carry at least. Obviously, some average more, but that's crazy.
Yeah, we're so last year it was bizarre. So with Ibrahim going down in the first game against Ohio State, we had, I believe, 5 running backs get over 500 yards. So one of those guys was a true freshman in Bucky Irving, who transferred to Oregon. The other one was a redshirt freshman in Kai Thomas, who transferred to Kansas.
Yep.
So that was a little bit of a worry for us this year with running back depth, because with Mo Ibrahim coming off of a torn Achilles, I'm not sure how closely you follow the NFL, but Cam Akers looked pretty miserable week 1 coming off that Achilles. So the fact that Mo Ibrahim is looking aggressive coming off of that injury, that's certainly good news for Minnesota. But also importantly, Trayson Potts had an undisclosed medical incident that I don't think we'll ever get out because of HIPAA or whatever it was, but apparently it was life altering. He only played about, I think, 4 or 5 games last year, but he had some type of scary injury. So the fact that he's back as well. But those guys are coming off of major injuries, and Bryce Williams broke his leg. I think it was against Purdue last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, I mean, talk about getting bit by the injury bug. Like us State fans think it's bad that we're down Jaden Reed and defensive lineman and a linebacker, but that's like three top tier running backs, and then you have all the transfers in the offseason. Like I can only imagine what the running back room has probably been like the biggest question mark going into the season.
Yeah. Go ahead, Corey.
No, I was just gonna say it absolutely has, but it's like, you look at it now and everyone's just like, "Whoa, Mo and Trey Potts took over like nothing happened," and even Bryce Williams, all of them have just acted like nothing's happened, like that injury just didn't take place. It's like it's pretty. Well, I'd say it's pretty crazy and miraculous for them to recover, and I think that's a testament to the rehab that they've done themselves, and then that's also a big testament to our coaching staff and the training staff getting them ready to go too as well. So
yeah, it's always scary coming. I mean, like an Achilles, that's like no joke at all. I don't know how the rehab is. I'm sure it's like 8 to 10 months or something ridiculous, but coming off that and looking as good as he has so far this year has been pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely a strength of ours. But watching your game against Washington, I couldn't help to notice how good Jalen Berger looked. Someone that we're really keyed in on Wisconsin is our main rival, how you guys would be with Michigan. So when Jalen Berger was signed to the Badgers, he was a Under Armour All-American. And you know how that pipeline is for running backs in Wisconsin. So we were looking at him saying, oh, he's going to be the next big thing. This is before we knew about Braylon Allen. So with him transferring to Michigan State, tell us about him and your other running back, how that running back room is looking right now.
Yeah, so obviously replacing Kenneth Walker is like impossible. So when I liked that Tucker went out and kind of, hit the portal hard at that position because he knew that Walker wasn't going to be coming back for another year. I think he landed Jalen Berger like midway through the year, like midway through last year after he left Wisconsin. So he knew that Kenneth Walker was gone. And then when he just kind of added some insurance onto that with Jarek Broussard, I thought that was great. And I think that they complement each other.
Yeah.
The Washington game is not a very good indication of what to expect. I think the offensive line, I don't know what was going on. It was disgusting to watch. But like there were no running lanes, nothing. Like other than the first two games, they had room to run. They were making plays. Like the running backs against Akron and Western obviously had much more running room than they did against Washington. But like during those games, they balanced each other out perfectly. Like I said, Broussard is an east to west runner. Berger is more north to south. But I mean, Broussard can make people miss. Like he kind of shows flashes of Kenneth Walker, and then Berger has great vision. Once he hits the hole, like once he gets to the second level, he can find even more room, which is wild. So I think both backs have been good so far, but unfortunately, I have a feeling the line is going to let them down a lot this year.
Yeah, that certainly could be the case. Corey and I are familiar with Broussard a little bit because last year we matched up with Colorado in Boulder, and it was a pretty miserable team. But they had some guys that hit the portal this year in Broussard, so that's another great pickup by Mel Tucker. So just naturally thinking about Peyton Thorne, pretty good looking quarterback. I think in this game, Gopher fans are kind of up and down on Tanner Morgan. I think we saw last year we fired our offensive coordinator, who actually took over at Colorado this year. It's not going very well for him, but Tanner Morgan, in our opinion, he's a product of the system. So for Peyton Thorne, like, do you think that he's naturally very gifted, or is he a product of Mel Tucker's system? Because those receivers look really great. Like, I think that's a really good tandem.
I think last week was like you kind of got a glimpse of what he could actually do on his own, because last year he had a couple of really good receivers that a lot of people thought bailed him out, and then he had Kenneth Walker behind him. So everybody just assumed like, Peyton Thorne is a product of having Kenneth Walker, do whatever he wants whenever he touches the ball, so the defense has to come up. But last week he was without Jaden Reed on the road. He has his top receiver was the number 3 option last year. His number 2 receiver was a freshman last year who had 5 catches. And he went out and showed out and had like one of the best games I think I've seen of his in a Spartan uniform. So I think he's better than a product of the system. I think he is a talented quarterback, but it also helps like his offensive line really let him down last week. I don't know if you guys watched a lot of that game, but he was running his life from the get-go. But I also think that he's good when he can improvise and is not like thinking too much, when he just goes out there and he's athletic enough to make a play with his legs or throw on the run, but sometimes he tries to do too much, and that's when he throws a pick or
he's kind of like a Brett Favre. If you rattle him right away, you get the line to let him down, and you rattle the quarterback a little right away, he's gonna just implode on himself. So
he doesn't ever usually let himself completely implode. He usually
no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he makes mistakes when it comes to that old line play, and you just got to get him rattled a little bit. But yeah, you know what I mean. Other than that, what do you think? Talking about the O line, what do you think about the O line and for running and passing? For you're laughing right now, but I want to hear.
What do I think of the O line? Oh man, I don't know. I feel like it's been a good decade since Michigan State has had a trustworthy offensive line, and I think they're recruiting a lot better on the O-line. Like, I will give them credit. Like the past couple of classes, we've really picked up some decent guys, and I think this coming year, 2023, is like could potentially be the best offensive line class that they've had. But right now, there's just not a ton of depth there. Guys are aren't picking up blitzes like right up the middle. Like we're Peyton Thorne's just getting teed off on just easy assignments that they're messing up, and they're getting blown back. Like the safety against Washington in the first quarter when Broussard took the handoff, they were down 7-0. They just made a defensive stop at the 1 yard line to turn Washington over, and the next play is they do a run right up the middle, and Broussard runs into the back of his lineman who got blown off the ball.
And from what I see is it's just a lot of like it's miscommunication on that old line. It's not even just that they're not good. It's just that they just don't have the communication from what I see.
Yeah.
Like from what I've been looking at film, I don't watch it probably nearly as much as you do, but the stunts and twist, those are the plays that get them, and us as Gopher fans, we know that all too well. The last couple of years with our O line, it's stunts and twists really killed us, especially in non-conference play, and that's why we didn't look too good in the years past. But this year with our O line, I think they've really, made that an emphasis to correct. But are you afraid to see those stunts and twists if Minnesota runs them this week?
I'm afraid to see any type of pressure from Minnesota's leg. I don't trust our offensive line to stop a blitz. I don't like there are talented linemen there. Like it's not a talent issue, like you said. There is talent there at certain spots, but then there's, like you said, the communication is just not there at all. And you could have a blitzing cornerback and nobody will even bat an eye.
Right. So do you think that if you were the coach, obviously you're not, but if you were the coach, would you bring in an extra tight end or an extra lineman to help, or even a running back to help pick up, on a passing down, or, how would you correct that, or how do you think that they will combat that?
See, I mean, it depends on the play. We have one tight end who's like almost always exclusively in there for blocking. So that would definitely help. But at the same time, like even having a running back like chip or do anything, like I just feel like there's just I tried not to watch anything from the Washington game again because it was just so hard to watch live. But it was just a lot of the same mistakes that happened last year, just like missing assignments, like not getting your gap, not recognizing a blitz, like stuff like that. That is just it didn't kill us the first 2 weeks. The offensive line, I was ready to say like the offensive line is like the most improved unit on the team. Then the Washington game happened, and I was like, everything that I thought I knew, I have no idea anymore. And that goes with like running backs too. Like I was like the running backs are like this is like Kenneth Walker again, but just two guys. And then now I'm just like, I don't even know if I want to run the ball anymore.
Well, and that could happen to us too, all of us, Minnesota fans that are listening to this, we're coming off of 3 games that we haven't really seen an opponent yet. So, all Minnesota fans are thinking, gosh, this is an incredible team. We don't know yet. We haven't been battle tested at all, really. But, just looking from what we know.
Even if you guys do lose on Saturday, I think that Minnesota has the best team in the West. Minnesota has the most complete team in the West.
Yeah, and I don't think if any Wisconsin fans are listening to this, which I doubt they are, but they'll argue that with Graham Mertz, the way he played the last week or something, they're like, whoa, he's the best quarterback. It's like, all right,
wait till Ohio State this week.
Settle down a little bit.
Yeah, Graham Mertz looked really good against Washington State at home. That was a really good game for him. Not.
Well, so Connor, with your comments about the Spartan offensive line, I really don't know what to expect from the Gopher defensive line. We had 2 defensive ends leave to the NFL draft last year, and Boye Mafe and Asezi Atamiwu. Um, that was kind of our Asezi was kind of your standard like run stopping massive human being. I want to say he was like 6'6", 280. He
I
got
think
drafted by
I
Minnesota
think he was six
Vikings.
seven.
6'7", 280,
Yeah,
something
he's
around
big.
there. And then Boye Mafe struggled against the run, but he was just quick, twitchy guy that got in the backfield, and he actually didn't get a ton of sacks. I think he's going to break out in the NFL more than he did in college. But the only pass rusher that I can really say with confidence that we have is Thomas Rush, um, who is an edge rusher, but the other guys are more like run stopping molds. So my personal opinion is that if we can get home to the quarterback a couple times, like that'd be a massive success because we don't really have any proven defensive linemen after losing 75% of our production from last year. Um, so that's one thing I think if Minnesota has a good chance in this game, seeing these redshirt freshmen, redshirt sophomores, not exactly where you want to be in a major conference like the Big Ten. So that's a huge test, I think. With your concerns about the Michigan State offensive line, I don't think I can say with confidence that our defensive line is going to neutralize those guys, especially pressuring Peyton Thorne.
Well, I want to add into this. I really don't know. Yeah, I think going back into this non-conference slate, I think the one thing that Gopher fans really wanted to see more of is a pass rush with what we
Yeah,
brought in. But a lot of times we would only bring three, and we'd drop back eight into coverage, and you'd get typically either you'd get a coverage sack or you'd get the quarterback to scramble out because there's nothing open and they drop them short. It was third and long or something, and you drop them short, and it's like I don't know if we'll see that more often or not. It's like obviously you want to see more of a pass rush develop, but will we see that against a Michigan State, or will we see the stunts and the twists and starting to blitz some guys and getting more and more decisive now that we're going into conference play? Is Joe Rossi gonna twist it up a little bit and you know start to bring some heat, or what are we gonna see? Is what I'm wondering.
How is your defensive backfield? Is it good, or is it just like we
That's
don't know
our
yet?
that is definitely our
well,
strength.
yeah,
Okay.
we're very bullish on that unit. Our mod Ryan Burns I think went on. He said on 247 that he expects it to be one of the best in the Big Ten, and he expects the defensive line to be raw and perhaps average. Our linebackers, hopefully above average, but our defensive backfield is really where we shine. Um, and you know how football works, how a defensive line, if can they make the secondary look good? Can the secondary get coverage sacks? You know how it kind of works in line like that. So,
Mhm.
you know, I think one thing against Colorado, I hesitate to really judge much. Their quarterbacks were so inept on handling pressures, especially the backside. The first play of the game, we had a cornerback blitz. The quarterback for Colorado didn't recognize it. He got strip sacked first play of the game on offense for Colorado. He got benched because honestly, that's not the left tackle's fault. That's not the tight end's fault. Like the quarterback is supposed to be communicating.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Uh,
that's your read.
so and I don't think a program coached by Mel Tucker is going to make that mistake. Another thing, we have a freshman named Danny Strigow from local Orono, Minnesota, who he looks like a good pass rusher, but against Colorado, against New Mexico State. So we're really interested to see if any of these guys can get home. If it wasn't for our secondary really neutralizing Michigan State's passing game, if they're able to beat these tackles one on one, I have my doubts personally.
Well, and I don't think our D line is all that. Like you said, they're very very raw. But I answering Connor's question, I think our DB our backfield is as good as I've seen it as a Gopher fan. I think top to bottom. I mean, you could have an injury or two there, and you can rotate guys there. I think our safeties, Tyler Nubin and Jordan Howden, they don't get enough recognition. They're probably the best safety duo in the Big Ten, probably one of the best in the country. I mean, um, Tyler Nubin will probably leave here early for the NFL, and I'm sure Jordan Howden will have some NFL aspirations, maybe get signed to a team here this year. But either way, I think our secondary is definitely our strength of our defense. So, looking at what Michigan State did the last game and in the past, I think that Minnesota's going to try to shut down the running game like every Big Ten team is, and force you to pass. Well, forcing you to pass against our secondary is kind of going into our strength. So that's kind of what everyone says. Michigan State, the matchup against Michigan State from Minnesota is bad. I really look at it as it's not a really good matchup for either team, as a sense of Michigan State's offense is kind of is going into Minnesota's strength on defense, especially.
Yeah, that's not what I want to hear. So basically, you're telling me it's going to be a 17-13 final.
Well,
Something
in
along those lines.
Vegas has the over/under at 51, and I
Mm,
really don't know how that happens
because
because
of Michigan
Yeah.
State's secondary.
Joe Rossi's defense does not give up points. It has not for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
The only game that we gave up more than 24 points, I think. I don't even think.
Against
I think
Ohio State.
Yeah, it was against Ohio State, and I think the only other one was Iowa was 24 points. Other than that, it's been 24 or less.
Who else did you guys play from the Big Ten East last year?
We played Ohio State. We played
Like Indiana or something?
Maryland. I think it was Maryland. Yeah,
No, we
Maryland
didn't.
is
Uh-uh.
no Maryland.
They didn't score over 24 on you guys?
We didn't
During
play
the
Maryland.
COVID year, they absolutely lit us up.
Who did we play?
Because I'm
We did
curious.
not play Michigan because we played Michigan in the COVID season. We didn't
I'm
play you
looking it
guys.
up.
We didn't play Rutgers because we're
Is
playing
it
them
Penn
this year.
State?
We did not play Penn State.
So it's got to be Indiana or somewhere.
Yeah, we did play Indiana. We played
Okay.
Indiana last year. They were a shell of themselves. I thought it wasn't really. It didn't really test us at
So
all because
we played Maryland. We beat them 34-16.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think Maryland
And
is
then
just so
we
up and
played
down.
Indiana 35-14.
If you're playing Maryland after the month of September, they're basically useless, honestly.
Yeah, I
And
totally agree
the
with
only
you.
time we gave up
Oh,
45 points to Ohio State. It was lost 31-45.
Yeah, I tried to remember
we
that.
had a lot of issues with that game.
But the
just so
rest of
that
that
safety duo we were talking about, they were exposed first that. But what makes Joe Rossi, our defensive coordinator, so good is that he won't let that happen twice. He
Mhm.
may let it happen multiple times in the same game, but you can guarantee that the following week that he's going to get that stuff, neutralized because that's just kind of what makes him, in my opinion, a top probably 12 to 15 D coordinator in the country, if not higher. Someone that's probably going to be hired away as a head coach or a D coordinator for a big helmet school in the coming years.
But aka Matty, he's told us this. This is his quote, right, Dana?
Oh yeah,
yeah. We got to give him props for
yeah.
that. He's been saying that for just to go off of this. This is the scores from last year. Minnesota beat Colorado 30-0. We lost to Bowling Green 10-14.
What?
We lost to Bowling Green 10-14 last
We
year.
fired our
But
offensive coordinator.
this
For
is I'm
perspective.
just showing the
Oh my
defensive scores. So we only gave up 14 points on the loss. Purdue we won 20-13. Nebraska we won 30-23. Maryland we won 34-16. Northwestern 41-14. Illinois we lost 6-14.
Oof, that's gross. That's
Uh,
gross.
Iowa we
That's
lost
why we
20.
didn't play in Indianapolis.
Iowa we lost 22-27. Indiana we won 35-14, and Wisconsin we won 23-13. And to finish the year, we won 18-6 against West Virginia.
Please stop letting Iowa win that division. They don't do
No
anything in
kidding.
the game.
All three of us know that they are not gonna. I guarantee you, they'll not win the West this year.
Oh no, they can't score touchdowns.
They look pathetic. But there were two guys that I'm really curious about on Michigan State. The first one being Keon Coleman.
Mhm.
As I understand, he's a basketball player too.
Yeah,
And I think he's someone that PJ Fleck had. Fleck has connections in the state of Michigan, being the Western Michigan head coach. Um, he was keyed on Keon Coleman in the recruiting process, and you guys are traditionally a much better football program. More boosters and whatnot, so it's harder to beat you guys in a recruiting battle, clearly. But I find it so impressive that a guy can play football at Michigan State and then suit up for the basketball team. He's 6'3" or 6'4". I was just super impressed with that guy because I was thinking of our cornerbacks. We have one physical cornerback who has no history of success, who we've been clamoring for him to play for years. His name is Terrell Smith. I think he's going to be the one that's going to be on Keon Coleman. And then the other guy that really impressed me was Daniel Barker. And he looks like an NFL guy to me right now as a tight end. Like that's a super rare thing. That guy, I want to say he was the guy that you told us about that's not inline blocker, but he's more of a receiver.
Mhm.
That guy looks like a star. So I am, as good as we think our secondary is, those two guys worry me a little bit because we don't have that top end talent. I think our guys are just coached really well and they're bought in. But if it comes up to a jump ball with Keon Coleman and whoever, I'm taking Keon Coleman, and Barker is a matchup nightmare. We don't have the linebackers to run with him, and he could body a safety. So tell us about those two guys.
Yeah, so Barker is a transfer. You guys might have seen him a lot more when he was at Illinois. He's
Yeah.
he's fun to watch. I think he finally had his breakout game against Washington last week because State kind of needed him to step up with Jaden Reed out. But
Wait, Connor, hold
yeah,
on. You guys have transfers at Michigan State?
no, zero transfers.
Man.
No, but Barker, I was looking forward to seeing him. I kind of wanted to see a little more Malik Carr, who's also kind of like the same as Barker. He's a super athletic tight end. He's a Purdue transfer from 2 years ago. He also plays basketball.
Shit.
Yeah, but for some reason, he just can't stay on the field. I don't know if it's because he's not a good blocker or what, but he has all the tools that you would want from like a crazy athletic tight end. And I think that's kind of he might be trying to build to be Barker by the time he's a senior, hopefully. But yeah, Barker's a really solid. Like in the opening game, he had a one-handed touchdown catch in the corner of the end zone. It was insane. And Keon Coleman is just a freak. Like there's no other word I could use to describe him other than like he's a freak. Just athletic, built like a truck. Like you look at him and like you don't think receiver, you think like hybrid tight end, maybe running back. Like he's just huge. He's just a monster. But like you said, if it's a jump ball, like I would take Keon Coleman over 98% of defensive backs.
Yeah, that certainly looked like a matchup that Michigan State can probably write up and say, "Hey, this is something that we know that we can go to." I'm really looking forward to seeing what that matchup is like because
Well, and
You know,
I wonder if they put
yeah,
on um uh, why can't I think of his name? Who's our nickel corner?
Michael
Dang.
Dixon.
Yeah, he's a taller guy. I wonder if they put a bigger guy like him
Yeah,
on.
yeah. So Michael Dixon is someone that's a little green still, but we were looking at pictures of him during camp. He's got like a 12 pack. He's someone that Rossi is really high on. Probably the best depth position on our team is safety. So, he's a safety slash like nickel guy, but he looks like an SEC player,
Mm.
um, which is something that's a welcome sign during the Fleck era because before Fleck, we were taking guys that were probably Corey's size and having them bulk up in the weight room, fourth, fifth year players. It is refreshing
Hey,
to see
come
some of
on!
these guys that you know.
You can't just dog on me like that. Come
I
on.
think that
Yeah,
was
man.
you deserved that a little bit.
Maybe not. Maybe not. But point being, we're getting guys that he's from Georgia, obviously a very highly recruited state, but Auburn's of the world, Georgia's of the world can't take everyone. So the fact that we're able to get some guys down there, but Michael Dixon is someone that can probably help in this matchup because, as you said, I did remember Barker from Illinois, but I think it had more to do with just Illinois' inability to do anything that made him just kind of seem like just a guy. So with a much better program in Michigan State, I noticed him, and the announcers were talking him up quite a bit. I think it was
Mhm.
a slant near the goal line or something like that. He made a really impressive play. So that's something that scares me. And to be honest, on the ground game, I'm not really as concerned just because Rossi is really consistent in his run fits, and we're going to sell out against the run. So that's going to put pressure on the Keon Coleman's of the world. And you mentioned you've got all these injuries, which we every team goes through, but I think you guys are getting hit with it real hard right now. And seeing who can step up because, as we know in college football, Corey and I know at the Gophers, there's guys that had never played before and they can step up and be the hero. And then the transfer portal, the guy that he replaced out the door. So stuff like that's really interesting to see. So transitioning to bold predictions or hot takes for the game, is there anything that sticks out to you before you give out your score prediction? What kind of is there any hot take that you have for this game?
Oh man, um, that's tough. I think since we've been talking about it, it's kind of you're kind of talking me into like pumping up Keon Coleman a little bit. Um, I think I'll give him like another 100-yard game based on if Jaden Reed is completely back and healthy. If Reed is back and completely healthy, that might take a little obviously it'll take targets away, but it actually might help him having another number one caliber receiver out there and having the defensive backs have to worry about another guy. So I'll just say Coleman goes for over 100 yards.
Okay.
I don't know if that's
And
hot.
Corey, what do you? Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess if someone's got to do it, the way that Rossi would prefer is if someone goes for 100 yards, it means that the rest of the guys aren't doing too much. But I think for myself, a hot take, I think that Broussard and Berger are really going to get shut down on the ground. I'm not sure that's necessarily a hot take, but uh, with the talent level of those two guys, and I think just kind of Mel Tucker's mentality of just being aggressive and just being able to, I think, smash teams sometimes. I think that Minnesota is going to prove to be the more physical team. I think that is going to be a surprise to many because we're in the Western Division. It's clearly the inferior division. Um, and I think it's going to be a statement. I think that Washington is that good and that you guys just ran into an unlucky streak of both injuries and West Coast and just facing a team that was um, undervalued by the public. So I think my hot take, and I'll throw in my score prediction here. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I have the Gophers covering the -3. I have them 21, Michigan State 17, and I think it's going to be a big statement about who is more physical and who's able to really own the trenches. And for me, just objectively, I'm going to take Minnesota on this one.
Yeah. My hot take, I will say, is I think that the Gophers um, will make Peyton Thorne throw the ball. I think we're going to shut down the run, kind of what Washington did early on, and I think that's just going to force them to throw the ball, make Peyton Thorne beat you in the air, and I just think Joe Rossi's ready for it. I think that they're going to disguise coverages, and they're going to act like they're in a zone coverage or a man-to-man coverage, and they're actually in a zone. And we're gonna at least see 2 picks. That's what I'm gonna see, or that's what I'm thinking for a hot take. Because I just see us dropping at least 8, like maybe 7 to 8 guys into coverage, and you just have guys just coming back there. So, um, yeah, that's just what I see. What else do you guys got going on? Do you guys want to talk about anything else before we?
I'll give a final score prediction because I guess I kind of just forgot to do that.
Yeah.
That's I like the. What was yours, Corey? What did you say the final score?
I really didn't say a final score, but I honestly think I think we're gonna win 31-21.
Bold.
So be over on the total points.
I think we're gonna win
You're
by
coming into
10.
East Lansing and winning by 10, huh?
It's bold. It's very
Yeah, talk
bold.
about a statement.
That would be a statement for sure. I would buy into Minnesota at that point. Um, I don't know if I don't know if it'll go 10 points either way. Honestly, I don't know if there's going to be enough offense scored on either
Yeah, I
side.
mean Vegas says it's a very close game.
Close game.
Do you
Yeah,
do you think if Vegas is right though all the time? Eh.
I think Vegas is right way more than it should be, honestly.
Well, they
But
are. They know. They
they
know.
know. They know. I think State's gonna bounce back, honestly, and pick up a 24-20 win. I just don't think I think Mel Tucker is 6-2 after a loss as the head coach at MSU, and I think both losses came in the 2020 season when MSU was just. I mean, everybody was basically just garbage, but
Yeah. Yeah, we'll chalk up that season to just,
yeah.
it
So
happened and we're going to forget about it.
yeah, so I don't think he's lost a game after a loss. Like last year, I think he won both of his games after a loss, after Purdue and then after Ohio State. So I think State's going to figure it out. I think he's pissed off. Mel Tucker is not happy with the way things
Yeah.
went down last week. I'm sure you guys heard the quote and everything.
Yes.
I mean, I love to hear that as a fan. Like I love that he said that because, like, honestly,
Yeah.
if you think that you coached a really good game, then that's a problem. So I think
Yeah,
that
the accountability that he shows, I love the way that he's just able to kind of put his face in
You know,
front of all the commotion and just say, this was on me. I'm not being a very good coach right now.
Mhm.
Not kind of paraphrasing his quote, but I feel that he's so good with like the media and just like I feel like he knows how to kind of fall on the sword in the public and then in the locker room have a totally different message to his players, but they know exactly what he's doing.
Right.
Alleviating the pressure, freeing them up to play their best game.
all I'm gonna say is I respect him for saying that, and I just respect him for, you know, owning it, being the head coach. You know, there's a couple coaches in the Big Ten West. Not gonna name any names. Jeff Brom, Scott Frost, now gone, but those
Yeah.
guys always. It seems like they always threw their assistant coaches, players
Or
under the
players,
bus, and
yeah.
it's like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
you just look stupid saying that. Like, just own up to your thing. It's your program. It's your culture. It's your thing. And it's like,
Yeah.
here's Mel Tucker literally saying, "I was dumb.
A, cer-
I
a
didn't do a
certain
good job."
rival fan base ran with that quote, and now they're just, I mean, it's being used against us, even though I love the quote. So
Like
I'm
out
sure,
of context ways.
yeah. So like, I'm sure
Yeah.
if we lose games from here on out, that'll be like a meme, like posted
Yeah.
everywhere. So it is what it is. But I'm glad that certain
Yeah.
people have a brain. So
Well, Michigan learns from experience. They have the most memeable coach in the Big Ten, certainly.
that is not wrong. Not wrong there.
Absolutely. So, do you guys have any more? Anything else we need to cover before we close it out?
For me, I think that you're going to see the quarterback play, and kind of the passing game for Minnesota really be a struggle. I'm not anticipating that is something that we can rely on at all. Some of it has to do with Chris Ottman-Belt being out. I think just a lot of it has to do with just playing a really good Big Ten team on the road. And I think Mo Ibrahim he's going to put the offense on his back in that zone running and just power through guys. And I think Trayson Potts is going to spell him, and
Yeah.
it's going to be a tough, grinded out win.
Yeah,
And if Michigan State wins this game, as Connor says, it's would I feel bad about it? Like, yeah, it's a loss in the standings, and it would affect us going to Indy. But if we lose by 4, I think that was your prediction.
Mhm.
We're gonna prove some things that, hey, like we're not gonna be pushed around. We can establish the run against anyone. We ran for over 200 in Ohio State easy last year. So I think it's going to be a really well played, close game, and it's not going to be one through the air on either side. That's just what I firmly believe.
absolutely.
I agree.
Connor, you got anything else to close out with?
I like what he said. It's going to be like your typical Big Ten game, and I think that you're about to find out a lot about both teams. And if it's a close game and nobody looks like completely overmatched, I think that you see two like really good Big Ten teams. And I think if Minnesota, like even if they lose a close game, like Minnesota's that team to beat in the West, in my opinion, and I think they have a chance to prove that, win or lose. And I'm excited because I don't think we've had a Michigan State Minnesota matchup in a while, so I'm excited to see this finally take place.
It's been since 2018.
Yeah, 2017.
Is it
You guys beat us in
2017?
the
Oh, you're
rain.
right. Yep.
Yeah, it was year one
Yeah,
to
it was
Fleck. The
PJ
game was
Fleck's
way
first
too
year.
close.
That's right. It was
LJ
Yeah,
Scott ran for.
thunderstorm delayed. I was at that game.
Yeah.
It was.
I
Yeah.
was at that game too, and I could have swore we lost by 17, but apparently we
No,
lost
we
by 3.
didn't. We lost by like a touchdown.
Oh, I thought it was a
I
blowout.
think
It
it
was
was.
a blowout
It
at one
was a
point.
blowout, and then
I
they
think it
came
was like
back.
30 to 27 or something like that. But
They came back.
yeah,
It had
it
to have been like
was
30 to. It had to have been like 30 to 13 or something at one point.
10.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was definitely like a 17-point game. Like it was a blowout.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, definitely a leading score.
That was a good game.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
got anything else?
I think we're good.
Connor,
I'm
you
good.
wanna plug your
Follow me at Connor Muldowney on Twitter and try to bear with my terrible takes constantly.
you're on
Well,
Twitter Space every once in a while, so
yeah,
talk a little ball.
we'll be touching base with you on game day to see where you're at and probably see where we're at, maybe compare score predictions, stuff like that. So looking forward to it.
Sounds good.
All right,
Appreciate
you
you guys
guys
having me on.
ready? We're gonna close out here with the outro music. All right, sounds good.